I know that I was triggered by the Harlan. Grabbing onto his knee is still triggering to me. Because you're just like, oh, no. Like, everyone, like a collective, and we can even go back to relitigating Spiegs. Like, why was he still in the game? It's a 12-point game when all of that happened with like 3 minutes left or whatever it was.
I got triggered by Why Can't I Be MVP, which he then delivered on and was. And I got triggered by graduations and meetings because there's time for that now. And some people will think of it. You know, he's 35, man. It's insane when you get older than 35 to then think about, like, this dude's life. There's a lot of life left for that man, and many chapters, and he gets to define what that chapter was for him. It's like, I saw him as an archetype. I saw him as like a story of redemption for the city, as a beacon of hope in lots of ways. And the sports prism means we just focus on what? 10 years, 15 years. If somebody is lucky, we get to look at that. And really what he's had is a hell of a run, actually. I found myself reflective on it today, Lawrence. It's like, it's kind of twisted to have to define your life that early. He's 35 with a lot more time to do, but it's what athletes get to do and kind of have to do with the benefit of the life they get to lead. That dude gets to write his own story from here on out after many, many, many of us tried to write it for him as it was happening. You know what I mean?
I do. And it's fun to watch like what's happened with Derrick Rose over the last, I would say 5 years. Like I feel over the last 5 years, like he's really reached into his phase, like his uncle phase. I think he's in that right now. And I love it. When he means so much, it's different for, I think, there are different compartments where you can have something that you connect with Derrick Rose. For kids who grew up on the South Side, he means something. For people of a certain age, like people who are younger than the two of us,
big time,
he really means something. He is their defining of what the Bulls are, because maybe you weren't quite old enough to appreciate what was happening with the Jordan Bulls. Here's your guy. Here's the guy. And he wasn't just your guy. He was the league's guy as an MVP, the youngest MVP in the league.
He was Adidas's guy on an international level.
And even some of the stuff that it's hard for people to understand, but I know that the people that listen to this show and listen to this station will understand it. The All-Star thing, where everyone's dancing and Derrick's not. That is the most Chicago, Inglewood bleep ever, because everyone here could relate to him being like, what are they doing?
I don't need y'all.
Like,
I don't got to live that way.
I don't dance. Now he's joked about it now, and he's like, I didn't know that that's what we were doing, and maybe if they had told me that we were all dancing, I would have danced. But the look on his face was the most Southside bleep ever, because you could just see him being like, look at these goofies. I know. Goofies over here dancing.
But it didn't take long, Lawrence, for that to age poorly in terms of the direction of pro sports and the NBA. It didn't take long for you to then get to a spot where you're like, man, I wish he was more like that. I wish he was more welcoming. I wish he did recruit more. And then maybe we could have overcome some of that stigma that Reinsdorf and Krause had left behind that he could not overcome. You know?
And if you look at some of the things that then happened, where there were other incidents where you go, oh, well, Derrick didn't want to be actively involved in recruiting Carmelo, or you know what I mean? And you go, did that make it so that his career didn't end up being what it could have been? That's the other part. Derrick Rose as a cipher, if you're even an NBA fan that grew up in this era of basketball, these 15 years of Derrick Rose, the what-ifs, he's the greatest what-if for a lot of NBA fans. Like, what if Derrick Rose doesn't get hurt? Could he have actually been a good foil for LeBron? when
felt
LeBron
like
was dominating in the East.
It felt like it, and it felt like he was, right there at the apex of what was going to be team versus stars. As Luol said, 12 is better than 3 that one night when they beat him here at home in the midst of that season. But, there's a temptation to look at the man's career and gauge whether it's a success or a tragedy, or ultimately a case of what could have been. It's life, man. And we have now lived the full career. And a lot of us have been conscious and cognizant of the filmic quality of this for every step of the way. And frankly, it's intense. And the fact that he's feeling good about it on the way out and composed and grateful and about it on the way out is really nice.
And find me a Derrick Rose Bulls fan, Derrick Rose era Bulls fan who didn't have tears in their eyes when he scored 50 in Minnesota. Like all of us. Like he leaves here and you go, that's our guy. And we're glad that he's able to have some basketball joy. And what he did in Minnesota or with the Knicks or down there in Memphis, whenever he came back, whenever that happened, the way that he is treated by people at the United Center, I think is a testament to what he meant to this city, to Inglewood, to the South Side, to Bulls fans, all of those things, and to what might have been.
Yeah, man. This texter says, I'm 31. I feel like Derrick was the first guy I could claim as mine. We want to hear from you. We're going to carve out some time a little later on the show to talk with you about it because, Lawrence, where you and I are coming at it is not necessarily where some others are coming at it. So we'll open up the phone lines and discuss.